And let's go into this. And I'll let you start because you know how long it took for me to get on board. But when was the moment that you knew he was the guy?
It was solidified on Monday Night Football.
Mm-hmm.
I had a real strong inkling at training camp when all the reporters were saying really nice things about him. And they've shared nice things before. They actually shared that Sam Howell, looked pretty good at times at training camp. There was never just at times with Jaden. Mm-hmm. It was literally them talking. They're like, this guy can play. This guy's head and shoulders. And they kept saying he's quick to process. That was the part in the training camp report that I kept going back to. And they're like, he gets through his reads quickly and knows where to go with the ball. And so I'm like, we might have ourselves a player here. They really might have been, I felt pretty good just the type of player he was in college, that he was going to be successful as a rookie, not this successful, but, good enough. And then that Monday Night Football game, it was the poise that you saw him with, the fact that we could go punch after punch and then keep going, that the offense looked unstoppable. I think, was that the game that Tressway didn't punt? Or if he did, it wasn't much.
Yeah. I think that might be one of the games he didn't punt. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the fact that he made it throughout the night, he made some incredible throws. He had the deep one to Terry, where he threw it from our 40 and Terry caught it, just like at the 10 or the 5. He had that memorable game sealing touchdown pass where he threw it perfect. And he was willing to be poised and get rocked. There were moments when he would scramble and bail out our offensive line and get a first down. He just played what was almost like a perfect game. And it was just like, this offense and this guy are a perfect mesh for each other. And so it was like, this is it. Like we got ourselves our franchise.
Oh yeah. And honestly, for me, I mean, like I said, it was that same game. But for me, for the longest time, I'd always, when we played one of these type of teams that has one of these top quality quarterbacks, I would always look to the other sideline and be like, damn, I wish I had that guy on my team. Like, can you imagine what we can do with that guy on my team? This was the moment where I detached from that. This was the moment where I was like, I am so glad who we have on our team. And it was just like you said, one after the other. And I think one of the biggest things was nothing fazed him. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, but nothing fazed him, even the positives. Even when you scored a touchdown, he's not going over there, signing autographs a la, the late Dwayne Haskins. He's not going over there, He's sitting down on the sidelines, just what's next? And that constant keeping the head in the game, keeping focus, going, you're only as good as the next thing, always got to improve. We were aggressive, and we were the aggressor in that game. We kept continually coming after them, and they were playing catch up to us. I think the final score was 28 or 38-33 or something like that. Or by like 5 points or something. But going into that game, albeit Cincinnati struggles early, albeit Cincinnati, maybe didn't have the defense or maybe didn't have certain pieces. Cincinnati was in the Super Bowl, 3-4 years ago? Yeah. Cincinnati, if Cincinnati is healthy, we've seen they are a team that can make it to the championship and beat the likes of the Kansas City Chiefs. So this was a leveling stick. This was one of those games that said, okay, what do you have? And the lights were on him and everything like that. That to me sat there and even people like me that were ready to look at every single flaw he had, that moment sat me back and said, you better pay attention. You got something good over here, because he was electric.
Yeah. You talked about the stoicism and ability to just stay focused. There were very few times in the year where he would break, I don't want to say break character, but show a whole lot of emotion out there. Like he was kind of just like business. This is what we do. I know what we can do. I know what I can do. Let's go play. Let's go execute. And that was always fun to see. He became a player that everybody could like. They've always said the most popular and powerful man in Washington is the Redskins quarterback. And that showed up this season when everyone started buying Commanders jerseys, number 5 jerseys, because he's just a player you want to root for. And even as a casual fan or a fan of another team, how many times did we hear from folks that we talked to throughout the season? They're like, well, I mean, you guys got yourself a great quarterback. And this was his first 17 games, and people already are like, yep, he's it.
So believe it or not, people outside of Washington knew before I knew. Okay.
Yes,
they were on board way before I did.
Well, in your defense, you were a Drake maniac, so I'll give you a little bit more time to get on board.
Oh yeah. And Sam, I could have been sandwiched with 2 North Carolina quarterbacks, so I have a little thing. But to be honest, most of the reason for my skepticism was Robert, because of all of the attention that. Even though once you see them as quarterbacks, they're kind of different. I think a lot different in certain ways. Yeah. But the hype and how much this city and state area fell in love with him and how they pushed him up. And you could see how different they are, even in personality and how they are as a person. But still, I wanted to say, oh, this is the last time we had something like this. This is what happened. And so it's easy for us to go back to that. But I think one of the differences, we talked about it, the stoicism and how he reacted. And there was so many times on the sidelines where you just see him hands folded, just like, and your plays that you're getting excited about, whatever, and he just pans to him, and and it's funny because a couple years ago we get upset with Ron Rivera because he wouldn't have any emotion and everything. Like, you're right, but we weren't winning. Right. If you're winning, you could act any way you want to act, but it's even better when you're seeing that, because it's kind of like the Jalen Hurts thing, where you're not too high, you're not too low, you stay right here so that you'll be able to handle any of these situations. And I think that leads to my big thing about it is the injury. When one of the things that I was scared most about was the injury, similar to RG3. When RG3 got hurt, he got the concussion first against Atlanta, and then obviously the Ravens game where Lotinata, took out the knee and the whole 9. And that was the beginning of the end. When I saw him get hurt and get that rib shot, or was it Carolina, where he got kind of folded up, and then, you see him go down and they take him out of that game early. Thankfully, we didn't really need him in that game. But to see how he worked after that, I think we played the Giants and he got hit once and he kind of, took him out of play. And then he said, okay, I got to focus. I got to stay reserved. And we all mentioned there was those games where he got hurt or where he was hurt and he didn't look like himself. He didn't look that he didn't have that same electric ability. But now in hindsight, you see he's working within the system and he knows this is not just a 1-week league. This is a marathon. This is 17 to 19 games or beyond if you can last that long. And the fact that he was kind of able to protect himself and do what he needed to do. He almost changed some of his game to where now I don't have to be this dynamic runner all the time. I can run when it's needed, but I can use my legs to then open up the field a little bit more. And the way that he was able to adjust in his own mind and in his own play, that's when it kind of settled with me that this isn't Robert, who's just going to go out there and just, hey, I'm going to leave it all out there. And I jumped on all our fans about, oh, man, he's tough. I just want to see him be tough. I want to see him for 10 years. You know what I mean? So I feel like my point is valid, is that I don't want to just throw him to the wolves, but I wasn't giving him the credit that he is smart about this. He sees kind of what it is. He knows what it's taking to be able to stay on the squad and stay healthy. What do I always say? The best ability is availability. So to see how he worked with that injury and see how he kind of still was able to elevate his game to evolve past just, okay, if my legs aren't working, what else can I do? That hooked me, because I was ready for that moment to kind of be like, okay, here's where the other shoe drops. Here, he's hurt again. Here we go. See, I told you, but I was so wrong, and I'm so glad I did. Shout out to him.
Well, I think it also forced him to develop a little bit more, where he basically said, if I can't run when I want to run, I need to know where I'm going to go with the ball.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I'm sure the game plan changed a little bit too. It did. We weren't having as long developing plays, knowing that he couldn't bail us out. And we saw some against the Eagles at their place, against the Steelers. Our offense struggled to go further downfield. We did a lot of quick game, a lot of short stuff. But like I said, it forced him to learn. Like, all right, well, if I don't have my legs, then I better get the ball out. And that probably didn't hurt either.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. And that showed the character, that showed the maturity, that showed, okay, like I said, he's here for the long term, and he's our guy. He's our guy. I'll say it.
Yes.
That's our guy. Let's go.
Dun, 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 dun.
Let's go. The Washington Commanders. There it is.